Okay, so it's time for another video. I'm in kind of a glasses half empty kind of mood because I worked my ass off yesterday and got underpaid for it because I don't get paid overtime thanks to some dumb loophole in the law. But let's just pretend that no one wants to hear that anyway. So this video is another glass half empty kind of video, and that is um, I wanted to first say why I make so many of these videos that are sort of pessimistic and negative. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but one of the reasons why is because there's just this overwhelming urge by most people to, preach the good word. And I think it's because people have a Hollywood conception of life. Life is not just about the good things. And, it helps to look at the bright side of things, but I think people have a tendency to think, oh, everything's going to work out as long as you stay positive. But that is not always the truth. And, I really think the reason why that tends to be the case is because people that are putting the message out, and the people, the mass media, those people are successful. They have no reason to be depressed. So of course they're going to put out a positive message because things worked out just fine for them. But you don't see too many suicidal, depressed people making top quality, or not, I shouldn't say top quality, but highly viewed entertainment. I mean, it does happen. There's been some great authors throughout history that I think were pretty pessimistic, but the modern age, most TV movies is just so based on an obsessively positive mindset that I think that it kind of dulls reality a little bit, or maybe gives people, you know, expectations for life that they shouldn't have. So I'm just trying to, keep the realness going here. It's may make it seem like I'm always depressed. I'm not always depressed, but I think it's important that people hear the other side of the argument. And if they're not going to do it in Hollywood, then little depressed people like me are going to have to do it. Anyway, this video, getting to the point, is about 3 phrases that people like to say as part of this general positive vibe, uh, but are, in my mind, myths. Number 1, they say it doesn't matter, what the outcome is as long as you try your hardest. This is bullshit. If you try your hardest and you fail, that means that God, or maybe not God, maybe the universe, whatever you believe, random chance, one way or the other, decided that you were not going to be born with the skills to succeed. So you try your hardest and you fail. That just means that's just sad. There's nothing honorable about that. That's just, a cruel, harsh dose of reality. Guess what? You tried your hardest and it wasn't good enough. Now you can die knowing you tried your hardest and you still failed. I don't see why it isn't better to, I mean, obviously, if you don't try your hardest, you can't know how good you could eventually be. But chances are, there's a small percentage of people who are really the best. So if you try your hardest, even if you do try your hardest, chances are that a lot of the time you're just going to end up being disappointed with the results anyway. So that's not to say that you shouldn't try your hardest in things. Go ahead if you want. You might have a chance to be great, but chances are not good that you're going to be great, even if you try your hardest. So that's my first problem. It does matter what the outcome is, regardless of whether you try your hardest. A lot of times people who don't try as hard end up having an outcome where things are great. Like look at, for example, Anthony Kiedis, Red Hot Chili Peppers. He didn't learn how to play an instrument. He didn't take vocal lessons, and yet he ended up one of the most successful rock stars in the modern era. Did he try his hardest to be a musician? I'm sure he tried, but I highly, if he was really going to try that hard, then he would have, he would have been able to hit higher notes. He would have been able to, play like, you know, like a virtuoso guitarist. So, it's not about whether or not you try your hardest entirely. That's a factor. But a lot of it is just natural talent, and people don't like to admit that because it sort of implies that that the people who are on top didn't earn what they have, and nobody wants anyone to believe that, because if anyone believed that, then you know people might question the authority of the people who are on top. That's my opinion on that matter. So, so yeah, sometimes trying your hardest doesn't hurt, unless you find out that your best wasn't good enough, in which case it does hurt a lot. I'm sure a lot of people tried their hardest and were severely hurt by the outcome. So, yeah. All right, that was number one. Number two. Number two. They say it's the little things in life that count. This is partially true. Little things are nice, flowers, sunsets, hanging with your dog, spending time with your dog, or seeing friends, all that kind of things. Those are the little things. But they act as if the big things don't count. I wonder if I think older people say it's little things that count a lot because the big things happen when you're young. You know, marriage, kids, relationships, your first love, your career, your school, grades, tests. Those are the big things. They decide your future, or at least they decide how you spend the majority of your time. And to say it's the little things that really matter, well, they matter, but to pretend that the big things don't matter more than the little things, I'm sorry, the big things matter more. Yesterday I worked a 13 and a half hour shift, and I have to get up early tomorrow, so why I'm wasting time making this video is a little silly, but yesterday, on the whole, was a shitty day. I had to get up early. I worked 13 and a half hours. I basically wasted a day of my life in service to, wealthy people, shuttling wealthy people around to do whatever evil bidding they're usually doing. And, maybe they're not totally evil. They may not realize they're doing evil. They think they are. But anyway, I lost an entire day of my life. And there were some good things. I was in the airport waiting to pick somebody up, and there was an older guy there playing piano, and he sounded good. He was good, He was, he was playing old-timey kind of stuff, but he was very talented. And, on the way back, there was a nice sunset. I enjoyed that. But does that change the fact that I have to get up in 5 hours? That I'm not going to get enough sleep? That I'm going to be exhausted? Like, potentially, because of that exhaustion, I could be threatening my own life and the life of my passenger? No, that doesn't negate that. Sure, the little things are nice, but, the big thing is that I'm going to be sleep deprived, and tomorrow's going to be a generally crappy day because of that. That's a big thing. That's not a little thing. And so, I don't know. I get the feeling, like I said, it's just when they say that the little things are what's really important, I think it's mostly just older people who have forgotten how important the big things really are. So, the little things are important, don't get me wrong. I appreciate them. If it wasn't for that yesterday, I might have gone crazy and killed myself. But, not seriously. No, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, the big things are more important than little things. Let's be real here, people. All right, that's my number 2 realness. Number 3. This is the one I really wanted to do the most of all. In life, you get what you give. That's the idea. It's like the Beatles, the love you take is equal to the love you make, that kind of thing. I don't know if you've ever heard that line, but that's BS. And you know why? Because there are many people, maybe not many, but the most powerful people in the world, they're not. I think the problem is that the phrase is thought of in terms of work. Well, the more work you put out, the more you get back. But, this is a very, singularized version of the idea of you get what you give. I mean, what if what you give is that, like, for example, my mother. She's a saint. She's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. She will bend over backwards to make you happy. And she supports all these wonderful causes and things like that. And she's got a pretty good life. She's not unhappy with her life. But given as much as my mother has given in her life, she should be the queen of the world. People should be worshiping at her feet. And it's not just her. There's lots of, there's a lot of people like that. People with hearts of gold. You probably know one. Maybe you are one if you're one of the really nice ones. That to me is, really giving. When people say you get what you give, they think about, oh, well, you put out a certain effort, you get back a certain return for it. But, that shouldn't be the only the only way you get what you give. You should get what you give, not just production wise or productivity wise, but morally, ethically wise. You got a lot of people who have been persecuted and been made into martyrs or died, for their causes. And were their lives so great? Is that getting what you give? Like, think about Van Gogh, for example. He made some of the greatest art of all time, and yet he spent most of his life in poverty, and was crazy by the end of his life. Did he have a life that was, that garnered the rewards, the supposed rewards for what he gave to the world, which is some of the greatest art known to man? I mean, this is according to art people anyway. I like his paintings, but I don't know much about art. But that's all I'm saying is that, or Franz Schubert, he was a guy, fantastic composer. I do know about him. And he died young, went crazy. Did he get what he gave? No. So you don't always get what you give. The love you take isn't always the love you make. There's no equal relationship here. This is ridiculous. If you put out effort, you're going to get something back for it. But to think that there's some kind of equality to this equation of what you give is what you get is just, it's a pipe dream. It's what people want to believe. So sometimes you get what you give. Sometimes you get more what you give. Sometimes you get less what you give. Less than what you give. So don't be fooled. These are the three main myths. People repeat these a lot. These are just things people like to say. It makes people seem, I don't know, like they have wisdom, I guess. It's people's attempts to seem wise. But you know what? People are jackasses. They pretend to be wise a lot. The reality is, things are much more complex than simple phrases like those three can really, can really describe. And anyone who tries to boil down so many of life's experiences into these cutesy little catchphrases is just being annoying and wasting everyone's time.